All right, another narrow range for the SPY. Look at that little green splotch. That's today's intraday candle. But you know what? Or that's today's daily candle. But you know what? Stocks are moving right now, and there's a lot of good trading going on. To me, it's all about watching the right stocks and knowing how to enter them so you're green right away. Had a really nice day today, and here is, since the SPY is holding up, there's no shock events. I can go right into the watch list for tomorrow. First, I'm going to highlight this, how crazy things are. CYCC had that huge move yesterday. Then today opens around 8 and goes all. That's not an error ticket. It actually almost went up to 11. As a matter of fact, hang on a second here. There's the call I made in chat. And if you're wondering how our chat room works, there's an example. I had time because if this would have been in the first 5-10 minutes, like on a morning gap play, everything I do is over the mic because it happens so fast. And remember, I'm trying to trade them too. But this one, you see, it was at 10:18 this morning. I had time to type it out and send the bell sound means that everyone got an audible alert through their speakers as well. So the idea was CYCC at 777 with a worst case stop of 749. And I'll show you the intraday on that. And you can see a lot of people pretty happy with that one. 5-minute candles here. 777 occurred probably, the high of this candle is 784. So it occurred during this candle, this 5-minute candle. I was looking for then the red to green, and then the whole number 8 break, and then a high of daybreak, and all of that happened. And from 777, the thing went to 1090, basically 40% move from the call today. And again, the risk was only 28 cents a share that didn't stop out. So pretty proud of that one. And there was another call. I'll show you BNTC as well. Called at 366. It went to 548. I'll cover that in a little bit because I'm going to show you BNTC for tomorrow. And when you make calls like that, you prompt stuff like this. And really, it was quite the celebration going on in the chat room today. I certainly don't want this to come off as it's all because of me. The teamwork in there is fantastic. And I even gave a speech today that I actually probably don't hold on to winners as long as I should, mostly because of the room, because I know there's always going to be somebody finding another setup. You know, the setups that we teach, people learn them and then they'll post them when they see them. And, you know, I've got like 20 plus people in the room on my hot list, which is, I've got it set up to give me an audible alert when any of those 20 people post something because they've proven themselves. So with that in mind, I probably scalp more than I should and put money in my pocket, you know, without holding a stock for the full move. I mean, nobody catches a full move, but that's one of my downfalls is, and I blame it on literally blame it on the teamwork in the room because, you know, I know there's always going to be another trade, so why not lock in most of my gains, you know, and so on. Now, lately I've been catching $1 a share on some of my shares. In other words, I'm working on holding some of them longer, but $1 a share on the stuff that I trade is a big move. So, you know, we're all, as traders, we're all a work in progress, and we all can always work on improving. All right, so here is my list for tomorrow. INNL had a really nice pop back here, a little flag, secondary pop, really held the 20-day here. Had a failed pop here, and then today closing at its highs. And usually when you get something like this, you get more upside in after hours, which you are. It actually went over 2 for a little bit. As I'm talking, it's trading at 196. But this is a handsome chart, right? Had this big spike, and then back to support. And if you look to the left, you know, a picture that's getting through 2 tomorrow, there is not a lot in the way. It might revisit this 257 high and maybe rip through it. So, I mean, stocks are moving really well. So this one's certainly a handsome chart. BNTC closing well off its highs. But I wanted to share with you this one too. I called this on a 2-minute buy setup. It was a gap up. Sellers came in, and then you put in a higher low on 2s over the mic. Called this on a 2-minute buy setup, which is over this candle in anticipation of that getting us through the high of day in a squeeze, right? So my entry idea was 366, and look what happens. I mean, it just never looked back. That was a day maker right there, even without CYCC. With it closing well off its highs, but the fact that it moved so nicely today, and you have other big spikes back here and here, you know, you never know. We might get a red to green and another nice move tomorrow, so it goes on watch, all right? PRAN. Now, this one's not that pretty, but, you know, you had this big move. You had a secondary move after the quiet inside day. Well, you could argue today is just another quiet inside day, and you're still putting in higher lows. So this one might have another day where it pops. So I definitely want to watch that one. Anything that makes a big move in the last few days, I want to have on my radar, especially if it's a lower price, lower float stock. CONN. Big pop today, and it held up pretty well for CONN. Maybe a follow-through day tomorrow. That's a tough trader. I didn't do anything with it today, but it's worth watching. DFFN gapped up today. I didn't do anything with it. It was on my gap list, but didn't give any kind of a clean setup. And that's the beauty of having rules on your gap play versus, ooh, it's open, right? The opening bell rang, I'm going to get long. That's a coin flip, guys. It's dangerous. You have to have setups, okay? You have to make it meet parameters. We teach those, all right? I never take a trade right at the open, ever. If somebody is running a chat room and they're calling DFFN right at the opening bell, they're just guessing and they're hoping the volume from their members will push it up for them. All right? I make these things meet my parameters. DFFN did not, and that's the beauty of having rules in place. However, goes back on watch tomorrow. I mean, you had resistance that was $4 here, might become support. It closed right at 4. It's got decent support right here at the 8 and the 20 day. So maybe this turns back up tomorrow. Goes on watch. CALI, huge move today. One of our members, VMS, in the chat room posted this early on today. I never did anything with it, but I saw that. I saw the nice volume, and you know what? It just kind of flagged all through lunch and then had an afternoon break. I even had this on a chart, but was not in my office when it broke there. That would have been a really nice afternoon trade. With a tiny float and the big volume, might have another day tomorrow, kind of like that BNTC, closing off its highs, but worth having on a chart. VICL. This is nothing interesting at all. Closing at 213. The chart means nothing to me, but in after hours, it's trading at 245 right now. So it had some news. And it's a fairly low float, so I want to keep my eyes on that one. Possible gap and go tomorrow. Again, it will have to meet my parameters before I get long. I never take something at the open. If somebody's teaching you to buy on the opening print, they're doing you a disservice, right? You might say, well, it's gapping up on volume, so it's got to go up. It doesn't have to do anything. We don't know how far, if the gap is overdone or if it's got more to go. You just don't know, so you should make it meet your parameters, right? And then jump on the winning team at one of those inflection points, right? That's the smartest way to trade. That way, if a stock's probably not going to gap and run, your rules, at least the rules we teach, will keep you out of it altogether. Or they'll get you in it at the right time. APOP is not that interesting, but you had this big pop. You had a secondary gap up here, and now you've got a couple red days. I don't know. It just goes on watch. After the 2 red days, this might turn back up. It's a recent high flyer. That's why it's on watch. CBIO, nothing to do with it today. It was on bounce watch, and then it gapped down. It is right in that area, though, between the 8 and the 20 day. So on a strong move, on any time frame, this is the time when I start looking for a bounce. So it goes back on watch tomorrow. No trades in it today. NVCR had the huge gap up and a little pop before reversing. Then it gapped down. There's nothing pretty about this except that you're still well above where it gapped up from. Volume was much lower today. Sometimes on the 3rd day, these things turn back up. So it goes on watch, but there's a lot of overhead resistance. Speaking of which, you have a similar setup here in STDY. Overhead resistance, meaning everyone who's long from the last couple days is pretty much underwater, but this one also might be worth watching for a turn back up. CNAT, C-N-A-T, is just, you have the pop, you had it, it kind of took out the side, but you sort of have a cup and handle. We have the handle forming right now. I don't have a trigger price, but it goes on watch. And then lastly, DEPO was on bounce watch today. It did bounce. I didn't catch a trade in it. I didn't need to with BNTC and CYCC. I just didn't need to. But, this one today took off out of the gate and then, kind of had a rounded bottom on an intraday basis. So maybe it's bottom. I mean, I don't see any capitulation volume, but you do have this kind of, see the pitch here, see that shape change right there. You do kind of have a little bit what looks like could be short-term capitulation into those lows from last March. So the bounce today might continue tomorrow. When you switch to 15-minute candles, it doesn't look terrible, right? Today you put in a higher low. Certainly like it over today's high, it might get going. I'm not a big bottom feeder. I used to try to, play these kind of things a lot. I'm more of a momentum trader now, but it's still worth watching. I suspect that we'll add some gappers in the morning, and I'll find some better setups than something like this DFFN or some of these stocks I've already showed you on the watch list. Those are much more interesting to me, but it can't hurt to have it on watch, right? It doesn't cost me anything to have it on a chart. All right, enjoy your evening, guys. We'll see everybody tomorrow.